I want to start by welcoming and I suppose praising Judge Iarfhlaith O'Neill for the work that he has done and welcoming the outcome. In the few minutes that we have to talk about this, I think we should try and draw out some lessons from the case. And firstly, the first thing to say is that it feels very familiar to be standing here, even in the short time that I've been a deputy, to be standing here yet again talking about a scandal that involves the state abuse of vulnerable citizens. It's familiar to hear another apology from a Taoiseach, heartfelt utterances of ministers who adopt a mea culpa, a commitment that never again will we allow this happen, that the lessons need to be learned, and the hope that this is in the past. And again, we seem to be back here with a strong sense of déjà vu. There is a problem for me in that the lessons are not learned. The state doesn't change. The Minister and the Taoiseach will still have the same instincts when confronted by vulnerable citizens failed by the state the next time it happens, as they do here today. And it's not an oversight, it's not a mistake, it's not the workings of some overzealous civil servant or functionary. It's embedded in the heart of this state and its workings. If you look at the record, hepatitis C, Bridget McCole, symphysiotomy, cervical check, Magdalen laundries, church-run schools and institutions, the Shane Farrell case, and the list is long. And the speeches by chastened ministers and leaders are similar and the contents are similar, but they all frankly today, to me, Minister, ring hollow. What did the state do here? And what is it hoping when it says today that it will contest the Ruth Morrissey case? What is it thinking when it denies Magdalen women justice or wants to limit the rights of survivors of abuse? It's not protecting its vulnerable citizens, it's protecting its own failures and its institution from its vulnerable citizens. Louise O'Keeffe, like Bridget McCole, was bullied and threatened with ruin if she pursued a clear injustice. The instincts of the state is to circle the wagons and hunker down, hoping that the threat might pass them by. It's not just about limiting liability, because we've seen the other side of this state in recent cases where the largesse and the coffers, when dealing with big business, are great and they're good and they can overflow on occasions with abandon. This is about the state protecting itself. There's a link here in many of the cases. The failure of the state to provide basic services that should be citizens' rights, the contracting out of core responsibilities to religious or other bodies or companies, and the fact that in so often doing, it is women or vulnerable people who bear the brunt of the failure and the subsequent attempts by the state to hide or evade its responsibility. Bertolt Brecht once said, "Unhappy the nation that needs heroes." And we do need our heroes, and we seem to be blessed with them, whether it's Vicky Phelan, Bridget McCole or Louise O'Keeffe. But we shouldn't need our heroes. We should be a happy nation that doesn't need them, and we shouldn't have to risk so much in having these heroes, nor should they have to risk so much of their own lives and have their own personal stories laid out so publicly to correct the failings of the state and the attempt by the state to protect itself. And what is it that our state institutions are protecting, you might ask? What did the government and its officials think when, in 2012, when it chose to interpret the European Court of Human Rights in such a clever way and maliciously narrow way? Who did Michael Noonan and Fine Gael think they were protecting when they threatened Bridget McCole with penury over the hepatitis C scandal? And who does the State Claims Agency think it's protecting when it decided to repeal recently the Ruth Morrissey judgment? Who did Fianna Fáil ministers indeed think they were protecting in 2010 when they tried to claim the state did not refer individuals, nor was it complicit in referring individuals to Ireland's Magdalen laundries? They're not protecting our citizens, they're not defending their rights or vindicating their rights as human beings, they're protecting the state's institutions and the layers of privilege and wealth that go with them. Karl Marx once famously said that a state is simply armed bodies of men. And he was right, it's true, but it's also a standing army of senior civil servants, of managers, advisors and learned lawyers whose class instincts at all times is to treat victims of abuse, of injustice or of failures of the state as enemies of that state, to be denied, to be shunned, to be ridiculed and threatened if they try to expose those failures. And despite the pious statements from you, Minister, and the Taoiseach, I can bet you we'll be back here again with another hero or another heroine when they choose to face down the threats of the state, and they have been vindicated. This is not the last time, because unfortunately we do not seem to have learned lessons from this litany of tragedy in the history of this state.
Thank you very much.